Hey everyone, I have something that's been really burning on my mind and building up over the past few weeks that I am going to write about at some point. But before I get there, I thought I would just maybe talk about it a little bit here first. So it's this kind of distinction, I guess, between what's always true for people, for human beings, and I mean for every human being. So, just what is true of the human race, period. And we can kind of look at that as truth. That those are the things, or maybe the thing, I don't know, that never changes, that doesn't waver, it doesn't fluctuate, there are no conditions on it. It's just what's always true. And then, as human beings, we have all kinds of stuff that's always moving. So, particularly, we have our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors. We have the circumstances in life, the physical world always changing form, all kinds of things. Everything around us, really, that we can see is always moving and always changing. And I think this distinction is really the core of everything that I teach, and I think everything that can help people and that does help people in any way that you want help. So truly, starting to see this distinction in a deep way is what helps us rise above habits, anxiety, depression, just start to feel a little safer and more relaxed in life. So let me say a little bit more about it. So what's always true, what's true across the board of every human being now and that ever lived, is that there's something energizing us. There's something, like, I'm not beating my own heart right now. And you might say, yeah, but your brain is. Well, I'm not powering my own brain. It's not plugged in. It didn't have to charge. Like, there's something that keeps every living thing alive. And what that something is, whatever that is, and people call it all kinds of names. You can call it God, you can call it universal energy, you can call it universal mind, whatever you want to call it. It is this life force that runs through everything. So it's what has my magnolia tree out the window here starting to bloom. It's what is beating my heart, beating your heart, giving us thoughts, putting ideas. Like, this isn't scripted. So when things are coming through me right now, I'm not doing that. When you're going off to do whatever you do next, it comes through you, it moves through you. And yes, we all have some say and we can shape things and all of that, but there's this bigger force behind life that is true of everything, and it has never not been true. As long as there's life, it's just what's there. So that is what's stable, right? That's a safe place to land. And as human beings, it's so helpful. I mean, just incredibly helpful, life-changing, to have a safe place to land. It's our safety net. If we know, okay, no matter what happens in this crazy world, no matter what shows up through me, what thoughts, fears, circumstances, behaviors, any of that, that there's something I can look back to that doesn't change, that is stable, and that is benevolent, that is growing us and helping us evolve, and that's on our side. Starting to get a glimpse of that, and it's way bigger than just the words I'm using to describe it right now, but that's what gives people this true feeling of, oh, I can relax a little bit in life. I'm not in charge. I don't have to worry about things so much. I don't have to hold it all together. There's something there. And in that something there, in that energy, there's infinite potential. So we never ever know, as much as we might think we do, we never know what's going to happen a second from now, a minute from now. We just don't know. Now, as human beings, we have brains, and our brains like to see what's coming down the pipe, so they make stuff up. And this happens, in an instant, and we don't experience it as us making stuff up. But we just have these amazing brains that are really, really great machines that are very efficient, and they like to protect us. Again, what's powering that is all this benevolent, protective kind of energy that has us moving forward in life. So it's all good stuff. So the truth of it, though, is that we never know what's coming because there is nothing there yet. There's energy. We know that. We know that there's life. We know that There's, again, if we want to call that God or wisdom or whatever it is, however it shows up through us, we can know that that's always there, and that as people, that's going to give us all kinds of things. Like I said, it's keeping us alive, it's giving us ideas and new thoughts and all kinds of wonderful things. But the specific form that any of that stuff is going to take, well, we don't know, because the form changes constantly. So that's a little bit about what's stable, what doesn't change. Now let me say a little bit more about what is always changing. Everything else. The magnolia tree, it's changing constantly. Maybe I can't see it with my eye, but it literally looks different today than it did yesterday. You, me, every cell in our body is changing. Our thoughts, our feelings are constantly changing. Our behaviors, again, we can get in this place where it feels like, oh, it's Saturday, here's what I do on Saturdays, or like we kind of know what's coming. That's just our mind wanting to be really efficient and tell us, okay, here's what's going to happen. But we don't really know. We can't really know that. So every other thing in life, aside from that energy that powers everything and that makes everything possible and is full of infinite potential, everything else is in flux. And that means it's changing. It's in flux. It's constantly changing, but kind of the comfort and the relief in that is that whatever we're feeling, whatever we're up against in any moment, is not going to stick around. By nature, it doesn't need to stick around. Let me say it that way. There is a force that has all of this stuff just moving through us. All this human experience, all these things, pieces in the world are constantly changing, and nothing has to stay the way it is. Now, here's what kind of spurred this thought for me, and how it comes up a lot when I work with people. Yeah, but I've been stuck in this habit for 7 years. I mean, how can you tell me that I'm not going to do it next week? I always binge eat on Sundays, or I always, get too drunk at the company party, or I always end up spending all this money on stuff I don't want. Like I've been doing it for 7 years. You can't tell me that I'm not going to still do it tomorrow. That's one way it shows up. Another way it shows up is, okay, I kind of get what you're saying, but it doesn't feel like that. You should see my feeling. It feels real. Like when I know this, I know it all moves. I know when I'm in a bad mood. I know when I'm really angry. I know when I'm really anxious. I know intellectually it's going to change, but it doesn't feel like that. You should see how it feels. It feels real. I have no concept of it being just fleeting, moving stuff. It feels so real. That's another way it shows up. So in both of those cases, essentially what we're doing, and everybody does this, I'm not making fun of anyone, I do it too, everyone does this, both of those things, but essentially what we're doing, what I want you to see, is that we're looking at the moving part of life, what's never stable, always moving, always changing, and we're kind of putting a stake in the ground around it, and we're kind of arguing for it. Yeah, but it's real. I know it's real. That's the amazing thing about the way that we're designed, we human beings are designed, is that stuff moves through us, and it's not boring, it's not flat, and like we can say, oh no, that doesn't look real to me. It's vivid. Like we have this amazing experience of life. We live in this world, and it's happening within us. It's unfolding in our heads, but because we're in this amazing physical world, and we see, smell, touch, hear things, that's all folded in. So it's like we're in this incredible movie, and it does feel real, and that's a blessing. And it, even when your depression is feeling real and your anxiety is feeling real, well, that's the flip side of the blessing, but it's still a blessing. How boring would it be if that weren't the case? So it does feel real, I get that, but don't stay there. And yes, no one's denying that you've been stuck in your habit for 7 years, that you've been doing the same thing every week, every month, every day, whatever, for a long chunk of time. I would never ask you to deny that. I'm just saying, let's not look there, because we're looking at something that's done. It reminds me of, I do a lot of yoga. In yoga, they talk about your drishti. So your drishti is a gazeless gaze, they call it. And it's a focus. It's a way of focusing somewhere that calms you down, and you especially use a drishti when you're doing like balancing poses. So if you're balancing on one leg and you have your other leg up in the air and you're doing some crazy stuff, you need some focus. So you're supposed to have this kind of gazeless gaze, which means you're not like rigid, it's the perfect open kind of way of being in life. It's a gaze, there's a focus, there's a purpose and an intention behind it, but it's soft, it's fluid and flexible. So you set your drishti and you find balance. With that, you find balance. But the thing about a drishti is, they always say, my yoga teachers always say, look at something in the room that's not moving. And that just really hit me the other day when I heard it. You gaze at something that's not moving. So when I'm doing like Bird of Paradise, which is really hard, Google it if you don't do yoga, you can't look at like the person in front of you who's wobbling like this. That's just, you're going to fall instantly if you do that. You look at their water bottle, or you look at a spot on the floor or a spot on the wall. And by looking at something that's stable, that doesn't move, it calms you. It shows you what's true. It shows you can be stable too. This is a feature that is available to you. It helps you kind of hone in on that. And it really does. It's crazy. I get it kind of physically why you'd need to look at something that's stable and why that kind of helps your body balance, but it's amazing what it does for your mind too. It really is calming. And when you're seeing the person in front of you wobbling all over, that really is not calming. So it just made me think of that the other day, and it's just like this, it's like we get upset and scared and nervous, and that everyone on earth feels that stuff. But we don't want to look at that. It's gonna make you so dizzy. And I'm not at all talking about, again, not about denying it, not about not looking at it. It's just coming back to what's true. Like, okay, this is all moving, but I know something about this and it's gonna move. I don't need to yeah but and argue for it and stare at it. That only hurts us. If we can just switch our gaze a little bit to find a drishti, look at something, a gazeless gaze that's stable. And to me, that's always that there is this amazing wisdom and energy running through all of us all the time that helps us. It doesn't just power us so we can run around kind of mindlessly. Like, it helps us. It moves you through life. It has matured you throughout your life. It has given you every good idea you've ever had. It is helpful and wise. And if we can just know that's there, you might be saying, I can't feel it. And everyone, I can't feel it a lot of the time. That is just that's another truth. We don't feel it all the time, but it is always there. So if we know it's there, and we know there's some peace underneath there, and that we're going to be okay, and that all of this moving stuff is going to change because it never has not. Every experience we've ever had has gone on, has moved and changed and fluctuated, every single one. Then it gives you a safe place to land. It gives you a nice drishti to kind of look at that helps you balance, that helps you become more stable. It's a huge topic and such an important distinction that I've never heard talked about in any other kind of psychology or anything else, but I just think it's just one of the most important things we can ever know, this distinction between what's real and true always, for all people, for every human always. No exceptions, and everything else. So I hope it's been helpful. As always, please reach out to me if you ever have any questions or if there's anything that you'd like to hear more about. Thank you.